This is Gabriela on the scene today with Talk Network Radio. We have a real treat for you just around the corner, and that is Empowered Living with Jeff Byrd. Jeff is the owner of Jeffrey Byrd Coaching, and he will be coming to you weekly to teach you more about empowered living. Now, let's join Jeff already in the studio.
Hello and welcome. I'm Jeff Byrd with Jeffrey Byrd Coaching, and this is Empowered Living. I'm so glad that you joined me today. We've got a great topic, and this is going to be especially relevant to those of you who are in sales in some way or another. I know a lot of salespeople, a lot of marketers, and recently I was talking to a woman who's on a team, and they're involved in sales, and I'm getting ready to do a presentation for their organization tomorrow evening, and I asked her, I said, well, what do you think it is that your folks most need or that they struggle with? And she said, well, it's just in the selling. You know, they're just not comfortable, really asking for sales, and they don't want to come across as pushy salespeople and that sort of thing. And she said, if you could just kind of speak to that. So I came up with some thoughts on that, and that's what I want to share with you today. The title that we're looking at of today's broadcast is Selling Through a Value-Adding Life Stance. Again, selling through a value-adding life stance. Now, when I think about somebody who added value to others, very easily Mother Teresa comes to mind up at the top of the list. She had a reputation as a value-adding person, right? She spent her whole life adding value to others, helping them, building them, developing them, caring for them, washing their clothes, feeding them, all the children over in Calcutta and throughout India. And that was her life stance. She had, this is what I'm calling a value-adding life stance, so that anybody that knew of her or knew of her, when her name came up, oh, boom, immediately, adds value to people. She had a value-adding image, a life stance that everybody knew. So much so that when Albania was a closed country, I understand that they issued one visa, only one, to people who were outside of the country, and that visa went to Mother Teresa. Now, why was that? Because they knew her as a value-adding person. And because they knew her as a value-adding person, what they did was trust her. People who add value to other people and do it for a consistent amount of time become known for that. And what happens is that trust develops in other people. Okay, so I want to give you a few steps here towards building this trust. First of all, valuing people. That's just seeing value in people as your way of life. You're just a person who sees value in other people, regardless of their condition. For example, I often ask groups that I'm in front of, I said, now, if I had a $100 bill and held it up here and asked, who wants the $100 bill? How many of you would raise your hand? And everybody says, yeah, of course we would. I said, now what if I crumpled it up and threw it on the ground? Would you still want the $100 bill? Sure, we'd still want it. What if I went outside, found a mud puddle and threw it in the mud puddle? Would you still want it? Sure. We could just wash it off. It's still worth $100. Its condition does not define its value. It already has its value. It's a known value. And the value does not change based on condition. This is so important to remember when we look at other people. Often we look at other people and go, oh my, look at that condition. And we can, like my mentor Mark Cole says, it's easy for us to excuse ourselves from valuing them or from helping them, because we say to ourselves, well, I wouldn't have made the same decisions that got them in that situation. That doesn't give us a buy. We've all made bad decisions. We've all needed help. So that looking at people and seeing that value regardless of their condition, that's step number one. We want to be known as a person who both values and adds value to others. When we do that, we're defining our own organizational culture, whether we're running a big organization or are part of an organization, or whether we're an organization of one. We define our own organizational culture by how we value and add value to others. Like Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. It's easy to sit around complaining about everything else going wrong in the world. Like the man who said, I wouldn't have any problems at all if it weren't for everybody else. But the thing is, we're the only one we can change. So we have to take that responsibility for being the change. And usually when we complain about things in the world, it's about a value issue. We feel devalued. Somebody else is being devalued. Those are the things we complain about. We think that somebody just doesn't value others enough. So if we can start our own movement, our own little revolution by becoming those people. So a few steps of how to do this, to become those kind of people, becoming someone who's known as one who values and adds value to others. The first one is just to value people. Before you leave the house in the morning, just take a few minutes and stop and just think about how valuable people are, the people around you. Just think about that, dwell on that. Now, I like to say, from a faith perspective, that I believe how valuable, I can tell how valuable anything is to anyone by what they'll give up for it, be it their watch, their purse, their shoes, their car, their house, their vacation. I can tell how much that's worth to them by how much they're willing to give up for it. And in the same way, I believe that I can tell how much I'm actually worth to God by how much he was willing to give up for me in his son, Jesus. So that's my stance on that. To me, that's very simple. I'm not here to push it on anybody. If you don't agree with me or don't believe that's fine. But I will say this. We all have to, at some point in our lives, determine what we attribute our value to. It can be our intellect, our appearance, our genealogy, our portfolio, our job position, our athletic prowess, well, whatever. There's many things that people attribute their value to. But at the end of the day, every one of those things is going to be tested at some point in life. And the stronger, the more sturdy and stable that to which we attribute our value, the better off we're going to be when that value gets tested. Okay? And it's going to get tested for every single one of us. Okay, so here's the list. The first thing is to value people. The second thing is to think of ways to add value to people. As you project your day, spend a few minutes in the morning thinking through your day and where you're going to be and who you're going to be around and how you can add value to them. Let them know you care for them. Let them know they matter. Let them know that they're valuable. Then the third, as we go through our day, we can look for ways to add value to people. Now, these are different than the things we already thought of in the morning. These are like kind of spontaneous opportunities that come up when we have an opportunity to value somebody. Maybe we get to thank the person who served us our food in the drive-thru or the 7-Eleven, or smile at somebody or sincerely ask how they're doing, or maybe it's something more than that. But we can look for opportunities to add value. And then the fourth thing is just do it. Just like Nike said, just add value to people. Just do it. Both the things we thought of earlier in the day and then with the spontaneous opportunities that we're looking for and prepared for, ready to respond to. And then at the end of the day, number 5 on that is think of the value, review the value that you added during the day to people. Kind of go back through that day and get those little snapshot images of things that happened in your minds and the way you were able to encourage and add value to people. And that will probably stimulate your thinking on more ways to add value to people. And next, this is what I call the spirit of the Good Samaritan. Now, most people know the story of the Good Samaritan, whether you read the Bible regularly or not. Most people have heard of the Good Samaritan. There's the Samaritan's Purse organization, and nonprofit, and there are other ways that this term Good Samaritan or Samaritan are used throughout our culture. But the original story of the Good Samaritan, if you remember, is there was a man who was traveling, and he was attacked by robbers, and he was beat up and left almost for dead. They took everything he had and beat him within an inch of his life. And there were some other people. There were some of his own people, some of his own Jewish kinsmen that came along. There was a priest, and there was another person that came along, and they saw him laying there, and they didn't do a thing to help him. They had places to be, and they just kept on going, said, I don't have time to stop and bother with this. But then there was a Samaritan that came along. And when the Samaritan got there, he had compassion on him, and he took him and he put him on his donkey, and he carried him to a place, to an inn. He paid for the lodging. He paid for his wounds to be bandaged up. And told the innkeeper, hey, I'm gonna got a journey to go on, but when I come back, if there's anything more you spend on him, I'll pay you for it. And so he helped take care of him. Now there were 3 types of people in that story. The first ones were the robbers, and their mentality was, what's yours is mine. I'm gonna take it, right? And then the second one, those were the kinsmen, but even a religious one, but they had places to be and things to do, and they were more important than people. And their mentality is, what's mine is mine, I'm going to keep it. And then the Good Samaritan came along, and his mentality was, what's mine is yours, I'm going to give it. And to become known as that, the spirit of that Good Samaritan, that, hey, you're a person who will give of what's yours to benefit somebody else. That's a huge thing. And I started out saying we're going to talk about sales, but if you're in sales and you're known as someone who has that spirit of the Good Samaritan, that what's yours is theirs, you're going to give it. If you're known as that kind of people, when you come along and recommend something, let me tell you, people will listen up. I had a pretty amazing experience the other day. It really meant a lot to me. And a few months back in the spring, a friend of mine introduced me to this coffee product. It's a nootropic coffee product, and so I tried it and really liked it. My wife and I drank it daily, and so much that I actually became a rep for it. And I've introduced a few other friends to it, and one of them is a fellow colleague on the John Maxwell team, and she said she wanted to try it. She saw my little post, how much I'd lost some weight and had a lot of energy, and she really liked that and was interested. And I told her about it, and she wrote back to me, and she said, "You are a man of integrity. I would believe anything you say." And I thought, wow, that is just an incredible compliment, and it means so much to me that anyone would think that I didn't have to sell her. I didn't have to be a hard sale. I wasn't trying to push it on her. She was already interested. And I just told her what my experience had been. And she said, because of who I know you are, I believe you. You wouldn't have to convince me. I just believe it just because you say it. And so she signed up. Now she's a distributor too. So that worked out really easily. And, she's enjoying the products. And, but the thing that meant the most to me was what she said about that. She said, "You're a man of integrity, and I will believe anything you say." So that's the kind of people we want to be known for. Just in our lives, both within and without of the realm of whatever it is that we're selling. And if we're known as that type of a person, then the sales are a lot easier. We're not going to chase anybody down, but for the right people, we're going to be who we need to be. And then if we can help them, we will. So here's a few points under the spirit of this Good Samaritan. And that is to add all the value you can, even when they can't do anything for you in return. So, it's one thing to add value to people who might be able to do something back for you. It's it's kind of quid pro quo. I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. And that's okay. And I like a win-win. But what's really more significant and speaks more to who we are is when we give, when there's nothing that can be given back to us, just because we see value in the people and know that they matter. And to become known as a person like that goes a long ways in anything that we do. The second thing is we want to add value where they are. The principle here is that connectors connect on common ground. That's a principle that John Maxwell teaches in his book, Everyone Communicates, but Few Connect. And to really connect, we have to get to where the other person is. I know so many people, and when I'm around them, they just talk about where they are. And sometimes I understand where they are and I'm able to connect. I try to listen and try to connect, but sometimes they just lose me, honestly, and they don't know it though, because they're not spending the time to find out where I'm at. And equally, it's my job to find out where other people are at so that I can connect on their ground. And if it's something that's an area of strength for me, to be able to meet them where they are and then to use that strength area to add value to them from my strength zone, we call it. And so we want to connect on the common ground and add value at the level where the other person is, not trying to get them to where I am. And then the third thing, under the spirit of the Good Samaritan, is to realize that everyone's not going to be your customer, but add value anyway. Because at the end of the day, it's about adding value. And if you do that, if you're known for doing that, for just adding value to everybody you can, whether you're your customer or not, if you're known for that, then all the right customers are going to come to you. I can just promise you that. I heard John Maxwell say the other day, said, you don't have to worry about your competition. Most of your competition will take care and eradicate itself. What you need to do is worry about you. Be the person you need to be. And when you